She came in crying to quit. The CEO stopped her and said, "Stay with me tonight." Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It is quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories like this one. Your support truly means the world to us. Where are you watching from today? Please drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let us go back to our main character. She stands outside the executive floor, her hands trembling so badly she has to press the resignation letter flat against her chest to keep it from shaking. Her eyes are swollen and red, the kind that tells you she has already cried in the restroom, in the elevator, and once more in the quiet hallway where no one could see her fall apart. She takes a breath, counts to 3, and knocks. "Come in," a man's voice says from inside. She steps into the office of the company's chief executive officer. The room is larger than her entire apartment. Floor-to-ceiling windows look out over the city, traffic crawling below like a distant river of light. The air smells clean, expensive, and calm. Too calm for the storm inside her. "I am sorry to interrupt," she begins, but her voice cracks before she can finish. She swallows hard. "I need to quit." The words finally land, heavy and final. She lowers her eyes, waiting for the dismissal she expects. She has rehearsed this moment all night. She has promised herself she will not cry again. But the tears come anyway, sliding down her cheeks without permission. The man behind the desk does not speak right away. He stands up slowly, buttoning his jacket, watching her the way someone watches a fragile object that might shatter if handled the wrong way. He is calm, controlled, and unmistakably powerful. This company answers to him. Everyone does. "Sit down," he says gently. She shakes her head. "I cannot. I just wanted to submit this and leave." He walks around the desk and closes the door to the office. Not loudly, not aggressively, just firmly enough that the click echoes in the quiet room. Then he turns back to her. "Please," he says, "sit." Against her better judgment, she does. Her knees feel weak, and the chair catches her before she realizes how exhausted she is. She wipes her face with the back of her hand, embarrassed, angry at herself for breaking down here of all places. "I am done," she says again, this time steadier. "I cannot keep pretending everything is fine. I have been blamed for things I did not do. I have been spoken to in ways that no one should accept. I tried to handle it quietly, professionally, but I am done." He listens. He does not interrupt. He does not offer excuses or quick solutions. When she finishes, the silence stretches between them, thick with everything she has not said. Finally, he speaks. "Stay with me tonight." Her head snaps up. Confusion flashes across her face, followed immediately by alarm. "I am not that kind of person," she says, pushing her chair back slightly. "If this is inappropriate, I will leave right now." He raises one hand, stopping her without touching her. "That is not what I mean." "Then what do you mean?" she asks, her voice shaking again, this time with anger. "Because I came here to quit, not to be tested, not to be cornered, and not to trade my dignity for a paycheck." Something changes in his expression. Not irritation, not surprise, something closer to respect. "Good," he says quietly. "That is exactly why I asked." She stares at him, not understanding. Her heart pounds in her ears. She came here expecting to be dismissed, ignored, or quietly replaced. She did not expect this. She did not expect him to stop her. And she definitely did not expect those words. Outside the office, the city keeps moving. Inside, time seems to pause, holding its breath, as a decision begins to form that will change everything. She does not answer him right away. Instead, her mind drifts backward, pulled by the weight of everything that led her to this office, this chair, this moment where quitting felt like the only way to survive. 24 hours earlier, her alarm had gone off at 5:30 in the morning. She had stared at the ceiling of her small apartment, counting the cracks she had memorized over the years. Rent was due in 9 days. Her checking account balance sat just above zero. On the kitchen counter, an unopened medical bill waited beside a bottle of prescription pills her mother could not skip. She had gone to work anyway. She always did. By 8:30, the emails had started. A project delay, a missing signature, a report someone forgot to submit. By 10, Her manager had called her into a glass conference room and shut the blinds. "You are becoming a problem," he had said, his voice calm, rehearsed. "Mistakes follow you." She had wanted to argue. She had the documents. She had proof. But experience had taught her something important. Proof did not matter when the blame was already assigned. At noon, a coworker she once trained avoided her eyes in the break room. At 2, another manager copied her on an email that quietly shifted responsibility onto her shoulders. By 4, she realized what was happening. Someone higher up had decided she was expendable. When she stayed late to fix an error that was not hers, the office lights dimmed automatically around her. The building emptied. Her phone buzzed with a message from her mother, asking if she had remembered to eat. She had not. By the time she left the building that night, her chest felt tight, as if something inside her was collapsing inward. On the subway ride home, she watched her reflection in the dark window and barely recognized herself. The confident woman she used to be had been replaced by someone who flinched at notifications and apologized before speaking. That night, she printed the resignation letter with hands that shook, not because she was afraid of leaving, but because staying had started to feel dangerous. Dangerous to her health, dangerous to her sense of self. Now, sitting across from the chief executive officer, all of that weight presses back into her spine. "I am not asking for special treatment," she says quietly. "I am not asking for protection. I just cannot keep doing this." He studies her, not as an employee, but as a person. He sees the exhaustion she has tried so hard to hide. He sees someone who has been absorbing pressure for far too long without breaking. "You should not have had to," he says. The words catch her off guard, not because they are dramatic, but because they are simple, honest. He is not defending the company. He is not deflecting. He is acknowledging. She grips the edge of the chair. "Then why am I still here?" "Because you walked in ready to leave," he answers. "And people who walk away from power instead of chasing it tell me something important." She looks at him now, really looks at him. This is not a negotiation. There is no offer on the table, no promise of a raise, no guarantee of safety. "Staying tonight does not mean you agree to anything," he continues. "It means you allow me to see the situation clearly before you disappear." She exhales slowly. Her instincts tell her to leave. They always have. But another part of her, quieter and more tired, wonders what would happen if she did not run this time. "What if nothing changes?" she asks. "Then you leave tomorrow," he says without hesitation, "with your dignity intact." The room feels different now, less like a trap, more like a crossroads. She nods once, not because she trusts him completely, but because for the first time in months, someone has given her a choice that does not come with strings attached. Outside, the sun dips lower between the buildings. Inside the office, the night begins to settle in, and with it, the first step of a test neither of them will forget. She stays, not because she is convinced, not because she suddenly feels safe. She stays because she has already decided that if she leaves, it will be on her own terms, not because fear pushed her out the door. The chief executive officer moves back to his desk and opens a slim folder she had not noticed before. Inside are printed reports, internal memos, and timelines marked with small notes in the margins. He does not slide them toward her. He does not invite her to read. He simply lets her see that they exist. "This is not an interrogation," he says calmly, "and this is not a negotiation." She crosses her arms, grounding herself. "Then what is it?" "A moment of clarity," he replies, "for both of us." He asks her to walk him through the last 3 months. Not opinions, not emotions, just facts. When the first incident happened, who was present, what documentation existed, where responsibility shifted without explanation. At first, she hesitates. Years of working quietly have trained her to minimize herself. But as she speaks, something unexpected happens. He listens, fully. He does not check his phone. He does not interrupt. When she pauses to remember a date, he waits. She explains how tasks were reassigned without notice, how deadlines were shortened only for her, how small mistakes were magnified while larger ones by others disappeared. She mentions the meeting where her manager praised her work publicly, then criticized the same work in private the next day. "I assumed I was doing something wrong," she admits, "so I worked harder, longer hours, fewer breaks. And when that did not fix it," he asks. I assumed it was my fault anyway. The room is quiet again. He writes something down. This is why I asked you to stay, he says. Not because I needed you here. Because I needed to see how you speak when you believe nothing is being offered. She looks at him sharply. You are testing me. Yes, he says, without flinching. But not in the way you think. He explains that he has spent years watching people perform when incentives are visible. Promotions, bonuses, recognition. Most people say the right things when they believe there is something to gain. Very few do when there is nothing promised. You came in prepared to walk away, he continues. You did not threaten. You did not bargain. You did not ask me to save you. That does not make me special, she says quietly. No, he agrees. It makes you honest. She feels a flicker of anger rise. Honesty does not pay rent. It does not stop people from abusing power. You are right, he says. That is why honesty alone is not the point. He stands and walks toward the window, looking out at the city. Power reveals itself in small patterns. The people who exploit it believe no one is watching. They rely on silence, on exhaustion, on people like you leaving quietly. He turns back to her. Tonight is not about fixing everything. It is about deciding whether the truth is worth the discomfort it causes. She thinks about the resignation letter folded in her bag, about how easy it would be to walk out tomorrow and never look back, about how many people before her have likely done the same. What happens if I stay and tell you everything? She asks. Then I act, he answers, not because you stayed, but because what you describe aligns with what I have already seen. That sentence lands differently. Already seen. She realizes then that this night is not a trap. It is a line being drawn. If I do this, she says carefully, I am not asking for protection, and I am not asking for favors. He nods. And I am not offering either. They sit down again across from each other, no longer as superior and subordinate, but as two people facing an uncomfortable truth. Outside, the building grows quieter. Inside, the air feels heavier, charged with the knowledge that once something is seen clearly, it cannot be unseen. She takes a breath. Then let us be honest, she says, and with that, the real test begins. The night stretches on, measured not by the clock on the wall, but by the steady rhythm of truth being laid bare. He does not rush her. He does not push. Instead, he lets the silence work, knowing that people reveal the most when they believe no one is trying to extract anything from them. She speaks carefully at first, choosing words the way someone chooses steps across thin ice. Then, slowly, she stops editing herself. She tells him about the performance review that praised her attention to detail, followed by a private warning that she was not a team player. She explains how access to shared files was quietly restricted, how meeting invitations stopped appearing on her calendar, how decisions were made without her and later blamed on her absence. As she talks, he cross-references dates with the notes in his folder. He does not react, but she notices his pen pause at certain names, certain patterns. You were isolated, he says finally, systematically. She nods. I thought it was just me. I thought if I worked harder, it would pass. That is what they count on, he replies. People blaming themselves instead of the structure around them. He tells her, then, what he has not said aloud yet. Over the past year, employee turnover in one specific department has quietly increased. Exit interviews have been vague. Complaints have been inconsistent, nothing actionable on its own. But when placed together, they form something else, a design. I suspected a problem, he says, but suspicion without a witness is noise. She stiffens. So I am a witness. You are a mirror, he corrects. I needed to see how someone behaves when they believe they are alone with power, when there is no promise of rescue. She studies him, searching for arrogance, manipulation, some hint that she has been used. What she finds instead is restraint. He could have intervened weeks ago. He could have summoned managers, demanded explanations, forced outcomes. He chose not to. Why wait? She asks. Because intervention changes behavior, he answers. But observation reveals character. That answer unsettles her more than anything else he has said. It means this was never about speed. It was about certainty. He leans forward slightly. Tell me something. When you walked in tonight, did you expect me to save you? She thinks for a moment, then shakes her head. No, I expected you to accept my resignation and move on. And yet you stayed, he says. Not because you trusted me, because you trusted yourself. She does not know what to say to that. The building is almost empty now. Cleaning staff move quietly through distant hallways. The city outside glows softer, less aggressive, as if the night has dulled its edges. He closes the folder. Here is what will happen next, he says. Nothing. At least not yet. Her eyebrows knit together. Nothing? Not visibly, he clarifies. Tomorrow you will return to work as usual. No announcements, no protection, no changes that you can see. Her chest tightens. Then what was the point of tonight? The point, he says calmly, is that now I know where to look, and they do not know that I am watching. She considers the risk. Staying means exposure. It means continuing to walk into a system that has already tried to push her out. Leaving would be safer, cleaner. But leaving would also mean silence. If I stay, she says, I do not want you stepping in the moment things get uncomfortable. A small, approving pause. Agreed. And if this turns against me? It will, he says honestly, before it gets better. She exhales slowly. Fear flickers through her, followed by something steadier. Resolve. Then I will stay, she says, but not because you asked. He meets her gaze. Good, because I need you exactly as you are. Not protected, not rewarded, just honest. As she stands to leave the office, she realizes that the resignation letter is still in her bag, untouched. For the first time, it feels less like an escape and more like leverage. The night has not given her answers. It has given her a role. And somewhere in the quiet machinery of the company, something has just begun to shift. The next morning arrives without ceremony. She wakes before her alarm, the city still quiet, her thoughts already racing. For a moment, she wonders if the night before was exhaustion playing tricks on her. Then she sees the resignation letter still folded in her bag, exactly where she left it, and remembers everything. At 8:30, she walks back into the building. Nothing looks different. The lobby hums with the same low conversations. The security desk nods as usual. The elevator doors slide open and close, carrying people upward who have no idea what has shifted behind the scenes. On her floor, the atmosphere feels unchanged, yet sharper. Her manager barely looks at her as she passes. A coworker offers a polite smile that does not reach their eyes. The workday begins, ordinary on the surface, tense underneath. By mid-morning, the first test arrives. An email circulates, copied to several senior staff members. It highlights an error in a client report. Her name is listed last, positioned as the quiet conclusion. She opens the attachment and scans it quickly. The error is real. It is also not hers. Her chest tightens, but she does not react immediately. She remembers the night before. No protection, no intervention, no visible changes. This is the moment she had been warned about. Her manager calls an impromptu meeting. Inside the small conference room, the air feels stale. He speaks calmly, professionally, explaining how the mistake slipped through and how accountability is important. The implication hangs, unspoken but clear. She listens. Then she speaks. I would like to clarify the timeline, she says evenly. The final version of this report was submitted after my access was removed. I documented that change and notified the team. The room stills. Her manager frowns. Are you suggesting someone else is responsible? I am stating what happened, she replies. I have the emails if anyone would like to see them. No one had expected that. Not the manager. Not the co-workers who had grown accustomed to her silence. The meeting ends quickly, unresolved. At her desk, her hands shake slightly, but she does not regret speaking. This is the line she agreed to hold. Across the building, in an office she cannot see, the chief executive officer watches quietly, not through cameras, through reports, through patterns, through reactions that shift now that pressure is applied. He notices who deflects, who grows defensive, who suddenly begins documenting conversations that never needed documentation before. By late afternoon, her manager stops by her desk. We need to talk, he says. She looks up. Of course. The conversation is tense, clipped, careful. He warns her about tone, about being perceived as difficult, about consequences. She listens without apologizing. When he leaves, her heart pounds, but something inside her feels steadier than it has in months. She did not back down. That evening, she receives a short message from an unknown internal number. "Thank you for staying honest today." She knows who it is from. There is no signature. She does not respond. The day ends without resolution. No public correction, no apology, no reward. Just pressure pressing back harder than before. At home, she sits on the edge of her bed, shoes still on, exhaustion settling deep into her bones. This is what staying costs. This is what silence used to save her from. And yet, beneath the fear, there is something else. Clarity. Tomorrow will be harder. She knows that now. The test is no longer theoretical. It is happening in real time, in public, where discomfort has witnesses. She folds the resignation letter again, not as an escape, but as a reminder. She can still leave, but tonight she chooses not to. Somewhere above the city, plans continue to form. Quietly, methodically. And for the first time, the people who rely on silence are beginning to feel exposed, even if they do not yet know why. The test has moved from words to action, and it is far from over. The shift begins quietly, but the tension follows her like a shadow. By the third day, the atmosphere around her desk has changed. Conversations stop when she approaches. Emails that once included her name, now excluded, then reappear hours later with carefully adjusted language. Someone has started documenting every exchange, copying managers who were never involved before. Pressure is tightening. She notices it most in the small things. A request returned without explanation, a meeting rescheduled without notice, a deadline moved forward and then questioned when she barely meets it. None of it is overt. All of it is intentional. She keeps working, she keeps records, and she keeps her voice steady. That afternoon, she is asked to stop by Human Resources. The message is polite, neutral, professional. Her stomach drops anyway. Inside the office, a representative greets her with a careful smile. There are printed documents on the table. Phrases like concerns, communication issues, and team cohesion appear repeatedly. Nothing concrete, nothing provable, just enough to make someone doubt themselves. She listens. She answers simply. She does not speculate. She does not accuse. When she leaves, her hands are cold, but her mind is clear. Across the building, the chief executive officer reads the summary of that meeting less than an hour later. He notices what is missing. No direct complaints, no dates, no evidence, just a familiar strategy. He compares it to 3 other files. The pattern aligns. That evening, he sends a single message. "Please come by when you are finished for the day." She hesitates before responding, then agrees. When she enters his office, the tone is different from before. Still calm, but sharper now. Purpose has replaced observation. "You were warned today," he says. "Yes," she replies, without specifics. He nods. That is intentional. She studies his face. "So now what?" "Now," he says, "you learn why I asked you to stay." He slides a document across the desk. Not a report, a summary. Redacted names, timelines, notes. "This is not just about you," he continues. "It never was." She reads silently. Each page describes a variation of her experience. Different roles, different months. The same slow erosion, the same quiet exits. Her throat tightens. They pushed people out. They selected them, he corrects. People who did not play along. People who did not flatter. People who believed work should speak for itself. She looks up. "And you let it happen." "I watched," he says, "because I needed certainty." Anger flashes through her, hot and sudden. "At what cost?" "At the cost of discomfort," he answers. "Never dignity. That line matters." She wants to argue. She wants to tell him that discomfort feels different when you are the one living inside it. But she stops herself. "What happens now?" she asks. He does not answer immediately. Instead, he closes the file. "Now comes the part where silence no longer protects them," he says. Her pulse quickens. "Are you asking me to testify?" "I am asking you to continue doing exactly what you are doing," he replies. "Document. Speak factually. Do not anticipate rescue." "And if they escalate?" she asks. "They will," he says calmly. The certainty in his voice sends a chill through her. "This is the point of no return," he adds. "Once I move, there will be consequences. For them. And visibility for you." She thinks of the warning from Human Resources, of the eyes that follow her now, of the resignation letter waiting at home. You could still leave, he says, as if reading her thoughts. Tonight. She shakes her head slowly. No, not now. He studies her for a long moment, then nods once. Then tomorrow, he says, things will begin to change. Not loudly, not all at once, but in ways that cannot be undone. She stands, her legs unsteady, but her resolve firm. As she walks out of the office, she realizes something important. She is no longer being tested. She is being trusted. And somewhere deep within the company, the people who believed no one was watching are about to discover how wrong they were. The undercover phase is ending. The reveal is coming. The escalation comes faster than she expected. By the end of the week, the pressure is no longer subtle. It is no longer quiet. It walks openly through the office, wearing professional language like armor. On Friday morning, she is called into a meeting with two senior managers she has never reported to before. Human Resources is present again. The door closes. The blinds follow. The tone is polite, concerned, carefully neutral. They speak about attitude, about alignment, about how her recent behavior has raised questions. Someone mentions that she seems resistant to feedback. Another suggests she might be struggling with stress. She listens, her heart pounding, every instinct screaming that this is the moment people disappear. This is retaliation, she says calmly. The word lands hard. The room shifts, faces tighten, pens stop moving. That is a serious accusation, one manager replies. I am aware, she answers. That is why I am choosing my words carefully. They end the meeting without conclusions, no warnings, no outcomes, just a clear message delivered between the lines. Be careful. When she returns to her desk, she feels it immediately. The looks, the whispers, the sudden distance. She has crossed an invisible line, and everyone knows it. By midday, an email arrives. Subject, Performance Review Update. Her hands shake as she opens it. The language is formal, dense, and familiar. Vague concerns, development plans, a review scheduled far earlier than standard policy allows. This is the move. Her chest tightens, anger rising faster than fear. She walks straight to the executive floor. This time, she does not knock. When she enters his office, she is no longer composed. Her voice is steady, but her eyes burn. You tested me, she says, and now they are coming for me. He does not deny it. They were always going to, he replies. She drops the email on his desk. This is what staying costs. He reads it once, then sets it aside. This is the moment most people step back, he says, when silence feels safer again. Her voice cracks. You told me not to expect protection. And I did not protect you, he answers. I prepared you. She stares at him, disbelief flashing into anger. Prepared me to be crushed? To be seen, he corrects. She laughs once, bitter and sharp. Seen by who? The people writing this? By me, he says quietly, and by the record that will remain when this is over. She steps closer to the desk, lowering her voice. You let it go this far. Yes, he admits, because now they have shown intent. The words hang between them. You could stop this today, she says. One email, one meeting. And tomorrow, he replies, they would learn how to hide better. She turns away, her hands clenched. For the first time since she walked into this, doubt breaks through her resolve. I trusted you, she says, and now I am the one exposed. He does not raise his voice. He does not rush to reassure. You trusted yourself, he says. That is why this works. She shakes her head. I did not sign up to be collateral damage. You are not collateral, he says firmly. You are the line. She faces him again. And if this destroys my career? It will not, he answers. But it will test you in ways I cannot soften. Silence fills the room, heavy and unforgiving. Finally, she speaks. This is the last time I do this blind. If I stay, I need to know that there is an end. He meets her gaze, no hesitation now. There is, he says, and it is close. She nods slowly, her fear reshaping itself into something sharper. Then I will finish what I started, she says. But if you fail to act, I will not stay quiet. A pause. You will not need to, he replies. As she leaves the office, her pulse races, but one thing is clear. The test has turned public. Lines have been drawn, masks are slipping. This is no longer about endurance. It is about confrontation. and someone, very soon, is going to lose control. The shift happens on a Monday morning, not with an announcement, not with raised voices. It begins with a calendar invite sent at 6:45 a.m. to a select group of senior leaders. Mandatory, in person, no agenda listed. By 9, the executive conference room is full. She is not invited. From her desk, she senses it anyway. The sudden tension, the hurried footsteps, the way certain managers avoid eye contact as they pass. Something is moving through the company, quiet but unstoppable. At 10:15, her manager receives a message and stiffens. He leaves his office without his notebook. That alone tells her more than words ever could. An hour later, she is called upstairs. This time, it is not human resources. When she enters the room, she freezes. The chief executive officer sits at the head of the table. Legal counsel is present, compliance officers, 2 board members, and across from them, the people who once controlled her days sit rigid, their confidence stripped down to careful silence. She takes a seat, heart pounding, unsure why she is here. The chief executive officer does not look at her at first. He addresses the room. "We are here to discuss a pattern," he says evenly, "not an incident, not a misunderstanding, a pattern of conduct that violates both company policy and basic standards of leadership." He gestures to the screen behind him. Timelines appear, dates, emails, access logs. Performance reviews place side by side with internal communications that contradict them. The room grows still. He turns to her then. "Please confirm the accuracy of what you see." She swallows, then nods. "Yes, that reflects my experience." That is all she says. She does not accuse. She does not editorialize. The facts speak loudly enough. One manager interrupts, voice strained. "This is being taken out of context." "Then context will help," the chief executive officer replies calmly. "Legal?" The questions that follow are precise, unavoidable. Names are spoken aloud. Decisions once hidden behind vague language are dissected in real time. Excuses crumble quickly when documented patterns replace narrative. After 30 minutes, the room feels different. Power has shifted, and everyone can feel it. Finally, the chief executive officer stands. "Effective immediately," he says, "there will be personnel changes." No names yet, just certainty. He turns back to her. "You are free to leave," he says, "or you may stay." She hesitates, then speaks. "I will stay." Not because she needs to, because she chooses to. When the meeting ends, she walks back to her desk through a building that feels altered. Conversations resume too quickly. Smiles appear where tension once lived. People glance at her differently now, with curiosity, with relief, with something like respect. Later that afternoon, she receives an email. Subject: role confirmation. No promotion, no dramatic title, just a clear statement that her position is secure, her reporting line adjusted, her work recognized as critical to the team. That matters more than any applause. As the day ends, she receives one final message. "Thank you for not leaving when it would have been easier." She stares at the screen for a moment, then closes her laptop. The company did not change overnight. It never does. But something essential has been corrected. She did not win by being louder, or more aggressive, or more compliant. She won by staying honest when the cost was highest. And for the first time since she walked into that office ready to quit, she feels something she almost forgot was possible. Stability, not given, earned. The weeks that follow are quieter, not because nothing is happening, but because the noise has moved elsewhere. Meetings are restructured, reporting lines are clarified. People who once spoke in circles now choose their words carefully. Accountability, once abstract, has become visible. She notices it in small ways first. An invitation arrives on time. Feedback is written, specific, fair. A decision is explained instead of implied. No one praises her publicly. No one needs to. One evening, as she is finishing up her work, she receives a message asking if she can stop by the executive office before leaving. This time, there is no tension in her chest. When she enters, the atmosphere is different from that first night. The windows are open slightly. The city hums below, steady and alive. "You stayed," he says, not as a test, but as a statement. "Yes," she replies. "You could have left at any point," he continues. Many people would have. I know, she says. I almost did. He nods. That is why this mattered. There is a pause, not uncomfortable, just honest. I want to be clear, he says. What happened did not require courage from me. It required it from you. She shifts slightly. You took risks. I had options, he answers. You did not. The words land softly, but they carry weight. He hands her a single page. Not a contract, not an offer, a choice. It outlines an opportunity to work more closely with leadership, not as a symbol, not as a reward, but as someone whose judgment has already been proven under pressure. You are free to decline, he says. This is not compensation, it is trust. She reads it once, then sets it down. I will accept, she says, but only if I am allowed to remain myself. A faint smile touches his expression. That is the only version that works. As she leaves the office, she realizes something important. The resignation letter is no longer in her bag. She threw it away days ago without ceremony. It no longer represented freedom. It represented a moment she outgrew. Months later, when new employees join the company, they hear stories, not about her, about standards, about lines that cannot be crossed, about silence no longer being a shield. She keeps her head down. She does her work. She speaks when it matters. And sometimes, late in the evening, when the building has emptied and the city lights flicker on, she passes the office where it all began. The door is open now, not because it has to be, but because nothing needs to be hidden. She did not stay because she was asked. She stayed because she chose to. And that choice changed more than just her future. It changed the rules of the room.